My name is Eddie Pearson, Eddie. Last name Pearson, Pierson.
Got you. Nice to meet you, Eddie.
Nice meeting you, champ.
Yes, sir. Okay, so do you know what AI stands for?
AI stands for artificial intelligence.
Awesome. What are your thoughts about AI as much as it's developed lately?
You know, it's cool, and for lack of better terms, it's very innovative. It allows us to cut corners, if you will, on on some of our day-to-day tasks. I know personally, I do a lot of selling on eBay, and I know that is something that eBay has implemented, where AI can actually write the description for the item you're selling. So that's kind of neat. It's interesting to see where AI is going and how it can be used, like I said, really as an efficiency thing. But I feel that my concern with AI is that it does take away some of the creativity of our society. If we can cut corners and have a computer program write a story or draw a picture, I'm afraid that some of our arts, like writing poems, writing stories, books, painting pictures, doing illustrations, things like that. As AI develops and gets better and better, I'm afraid that that's going to affect that the arts, and in turn that industry of writing and of artistic ability.
Yeah, that's a great answer.
What's your name and how long have you lived in Oskaloosa?
Pete Havenstrait. I've been in Oskaloosa for about 5 years.
Do you know what AI is or what it stands for?
Artificial intelligence. So just the intelligence of artificial things.
Do you worry that AI will take away jobs or affect any future opportunities?
Yeah, I think most of your customer service, like people in Smoky Row, they'll be fine. I think maybe engineers or cybersecurity, anybody who's going to use computers a lot, it could be a risk to lose their jobs to AI.
Do you think AI has a negative or positive impact on the world currently?
I think a lot of it depends on how you use it, but I think for the most part, positive. Yeah, it's going to help a lot of people out more than it's going to hurt them.
All right. Well, do you know what AI is?
Yes, artificial intelligence.
Yeah. Do you think it's a negative or positive kind of development throughout kind of how it's going?
I think it is positive in general. I think we definitely need some guardrails on there. So, I mean, not all positive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, are you at any concern for any jobs in the future for machine as
right.
well? For him?
I could not believe the essays that they can come up with on what is that called? The ChatGPT. Yes. Mm-hmm. I could not believe the essays they could come up with, and I found myself thinking, if I could have at his age just typed in some how much just information and the ability to write and use your brain to develop things and literature, and how much of that will be interfered with education as well as jobs. That is a concern.
My name is Dryden DeConing.
When someone says AI, what's the first thing you think of?
Well, I think about how it could be used to advance medical technology or just technology in general. But I also think about how it could be abused to control people. Potentially. There's a lot of unknowns when it comes to AI, and I'm sure we'll figure that out in the near future.
Interesting. What do you think someone could do with AI that could be used for bad things?
Well, say they use the AI to generate entertainment to distract people from stuff that's actually going on, or they'd use AI to generate some sort of code to take over banking systems or figure out people's informations for stuff like that, so they can just access and take whatever they want without anybody knowing.
What do you think AI could be used for good things?
Well, as I mentioned before, you could use it to advance technology, specifically in the medical industry or even in the car industry. It's really interesting on how it adapts and learns over time. So eventually it'll figure stuff out that we haven't figured out yet and help us advance, maybe even in space travel.
At this point in your life, does AI play any role in your day-to-day life?
I can't say it does too much. I like to think on my own, so I don't utilize it all that often.
Do you think you ever will?
It's very possible. I'm sure at some point in my life it'll be something you just kind of have to do, you know?
Right. All right. Well, that's all. Thanks.
So, what do you know about AI?
It's artificial intelligence. It can be used in several different things. You've got computer programs that base it, but then you can get it into, I guess, social media, governmental. There's broad breakdown, I guess. I used to be a game tester, so like I got involved into that in that way, and my parents are military, so there's AI in that too. So
yeah. What experience do you have with it? You said you were doing game testing.
Yes.
You want to go into that a little further?
So we did your normal standard for games that were on the market, but we also did a government where we would have to do simulations and to anticipate and have to make a programming that would actually anticipate a soldier's moves. So when we did that testing, the program that went behind that was to try to anticipate the opposite side based off of what we do. So it had to learn. And so the more that we did it, the more it learned.
Do you think there are any ethical dilemmas we're going to face as AI advances?
I think there's going to be ethical dilemmas in any advancement, not just AI, but yeah.
Yeah. What, as far as like jobs are concerned, do you think AI is going to take over any of them?
It might diminish some, but most people need to think that somebody has to fix or monitor, so it might open up in another another area. So the trade-off, if it's done correctly, shouldn't be that bad. The trick is going to be to make sure there's a balance of it.
Good afternoon. We're at the WPU Quarterly Magazine with Andrew Arduzer. And I'm here to ask a few questions about what AI stands for. Give us a grasp of what AI typically is.
Sure. So AI is artificial intelligence. Ideally, it's some computer system that has an agent that is in some environment, whether it be a chess game or a video game or on a factory floor, that's given a specific number of tasks that it can complete, and it's rewarded or punished based off of the outcome of the action. So eventually it learns what does well and what doesn't perform so well. So ideally it performs at a human level for these tasks that we're assigning it.
Just the small, simple things.
Yeah, well, I mean, we can have it generalized to a lot of things. When we think of human intelligence, we think of things like Westworld, where these automatons are basically identical to people, but we're not quite there yet for the current status.
Okay. Do you know the capabilities AI have at the moment?
I mean, we use it in a lot of places. We've seen it used for facial recognition, for recreating art, music. We've had ChatGPT come in and cause quite a disruption in a lot of different spheres, specifically education, coding. A lot of programmers use it to develop help develop their code. And it's used in medical, it's used in logistics. I mean, it's used a lot of places. Yeah.
So talking about that, kind of student lives and kind of other jobs, do you think it has any major effect on just students and just overall people who are trying to work it or have it in their work?
I think it has a big impact on students and workers as well. So students, it is a great tool to learn, but it is also a double-edged sword. If you use ChatGPT to write all of your essays, you're not learning as much. When you get out into the real world, you're not able to show off the skills that you passed off to ChatGPT. You're not as well educated. So it's a temptation that I would encourage my students out there to resist. But meanwhile, if you have the skills, it's a useful tool to help augment them.
Right. And just kind of as it keeps growing, do you think human beings will just become too reliant to it and just slowly decrease in knowledge?
That's a great question. There still has to be people that make the AI and maintain it. So ideally, I hope not. I really hope we're not heading towards that weird dystopia that we've only seen in things like Black Mirror. Ideally, AI, like I said, it's a tool. We can use this to make people's lives easier, or we can use it in a capitalistic sense to make more money while increasing the workload of people. So it's really a balancing scale of where we actually want to apply it and how we want to apply it.
Right. Growing up, I believe machines and all these different mechanics will take over the world, like robots. And do you think that's pretty similar to AI?
I think that was a pretty good representation of AI back in the 80s, where it was Terminator, or seeing like Ex Machina or Her in more recent iterations. Am I thinking that there are similarities to what's happening now? Possibly. I mean, we get with AI remote drones or those delivery dogs that we've seen from Boston Dynamics. If those were equipped with any weapon capabilities, absolutely, they could run amok, they could be hacked. I mean, with any technology, it's susceptible, it's vulnerable to people that are wanting to take advantage of the system. So we have to be careful of bad actors before we implement the actual technology, or else we'll run into a lot of problems.
Right. And just kind of taking that, did you take this kind of profession to kind of solve that problem, or kind of solve something in a way to not make that become a problem in the future?
That's a great question. I got into data science because I always loved math. Finding patterns in data, I thought that was an interesting occupation that I thought I could go into. I knew I was good at it, so it was more of an idea that I could contribute more by utilizing and leveraging my skill sets rather than going on what was cool. I had more of a practical aspect of how I was going into my profession, but I do see a lot of people looking at these new positions that are being created, and they're very excited about it. And I just want, now as a teacher, to help them achieve whatever success they want.
Wow, that's really good. Just kind of coming back, just kind of toning it down. I used a couple AI things for school and everything. Did you ever have that when you were in school, or no?
I appreciate you think I'm so young. No, AI was not really that much of a thing when I was in school, at least not widely usable, not widely accessible for sure. Did I use it for my job interview for this place? Absolutely. I had to create a data set to walk them through an example lecture, and I didn't want to go through the hand process of creating this decent-sized data set to be able to show off the patterns within it. So I went to ChatGPT. I had it dummy up just a sample data set. It's not the stuff that's important. It's not the information that I'm really showing off, the wisdom that I know behind the data. I think it's a great example of using it for your own advantage to take care of the tasks that is grunt work, that is work that you wouldn't want to be doing, so I can do more interesting work besides. That's how I think AI should be implemented.
Wow. Has there any been times where AI was able to communicate with another AI? Or just in a way, just kind of creating a community in that little aspect?
Now that I'm not aware of any interactions between AI, but in theory it could. There was a recent example of ChatGPT before it had more restrictions put into place that it would make money. So it was given the prompt of, we have a month, we have $1,000, how can we make the most money? Or some parameters like those. And ChatGPT came up with this whole marketing, designed this website, and it ran into the problem where it couldn't get past a CAPTCHA, couldn't get past a little security device. So it hired someone on Fiverr, or or some task service to get past the CAPTCHA for it. And it pretended that it wasn't a robot. It said, oh, I'm a blind person. I need help just completing this CAPTCHA. Can you help me? So are there ways that it could interact? Absolutely. Am I looking forward to that day? No. It would be like watching the Flash have a conversation with Superman.
Right.
The information passing between them would be so fast that we wouldn't be able to understand the conversation in the first place. So is it terrifying? Absolutely. Should we have some guardrails in place before it's implemented? In my opinion, yes.
Talking about emotions, what are your opinions, and not from a professional standpoint?
Towards AI?
Yeah.
And I think it's a great tool. I think it's allowing the average person to be able to perform much more or more voluminous work, like increasing their productivity by a significant margin. People can use it to learn about things like coding, things like history and art, as long as the AI has been taught about that. I mean, if you type into ChatGPT to ask about the Renaissance and learn about these artists, I'm sure it would have some actual information to give back, even though there's some chance that the information wouldn't be completely genuine, so you might want to double check.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a lot of ways that it can help. It's a massive advantage to have this tool rather than to not have it, but we just need to be careful.
Right. And just kind of talking about it, it knows so much that it can become such an issue in the future, and that's kind of one major thing people can be afraid about. But then there's a lot of other things that are really great about it. Just what are the great things? Because you mentioned about it can help you, it can answer your questions about what it is. Are those truly what they mean, or are they what they are? As in, like, factual things?
That's a great question. So a lawyer recently tried to use ChatGPT, I think the newest iteration, in order to pass, or in order to try some logic in a court case. They typed into ChatGPT the evidence that they had, the plaintiff and the defendant, and the problem that they ran into was the cases that ChatGPT gave them were completely fictitious. They did not exist. So the lawyer admittedly didn't do his research, didn't double check that those were real cases, presented it to the judge, and now he's in some deep trouble. Wow. So there's a lot of advantages to be able to use it, but you also have to be very careful about the output and make sure that it's actually true.
Right. Well, that's all the questions I have for you today. It was great talking to you, and I learned a lot. It was a lot of knowledge, but hopefully the listeners out there can kind of take that information and either, I guess, not be afraid of AI.
Yeah, don't be afraid. Just be cautious.
Yeah, right. Correct.